The final episode of Boys Planet has aired, and now it's time to wrap up my thoughts as Mnet has found their final group of idols. I think the lineup is somewhat surprising, however, I also think it might have some holes that are going to affect it long term. ZEROBASEONE is the name of the new group. It's interesting. ZB1, thankfully, is what I think they will become to be known as, but Korean netizens say even that is a bit silly. I'll start with the positives, though, in the group. I think it's good that they have at least 3 international trainees. Matthew is very charismatic and will probably help them with the global audience. I also think his vocal abilities are really needed in this group, so I'm happy he ended up in the final lineup. Jong Hao and Ricky are also both good additions. I was surprised Ricky rose to 4th, but pleasantly so. I'm unsurprised Jong Hao rose to 1st. He was really a lot of people's one pick. I think he can carry a lot for the international audience, and I'm happy Mnet realized having only one Chinese trainee is probably a mistake. On the subject of international trainees, I find it weird no Japanese trainees made it into the final lineup. Hikaru is one of the most popular in Kepler, and Yurina held a lot of vote power early on in Girls Planet. Ultimately, I think ZB1 will probably have Japanese promotional singles, so I think this might be a mistake. The votes are the votes, but I guess I'm still sad Keita and Haruto were eliminated, with Haruto only placing at 22nd place. Most of the Korean trainees are ones I expected to see in the final lineup, other than Huey not being able to make it to the top 9. Comments about his age, experience, and more being listed as a negative for him from most people made me knew it was probably likely. I think it's honestly terrible he didn't make it into the final group. He's such a talented artist in so many respects. I think he has the experience that really benefits the leadership of a temporary group. I also would have loved to see what he would have composed for the group. Hopefully we still get to see that, and hopefully Huey uses this as a platform to launch solo work. I loved Triple H, and I would love seeing that kind of retro vibe from him again. Overall, most of these trainees are super talented, but I wonder how much success this will translate to. Kepler seemed like it would have a bright start. I think a lot of people were really disappointed in the final lineup, and then the lack of direction they seem to have in their music sort of set it up for failure. With the group they have, I almost think Mnet should release Chinese singles instead of Japanese ones to capitalize on the members that they do have. I think it's possible they do so, but probably unlikely since these things tend to be determined far in advance. I saw a lot of people upset that Keita, Huey, and Jay didn't make it into the final group. I also saw people upset when Haruto was eliminated the episode previous to this one. For Jay, I think this will only strengthen whatever group his agency put him in though, and he's probably stronger not being in the final group. I think his presence on the show led to a lot of people disliking him. He was almost portrayed as too talented for his own good. I think he probably would have received a lot of hate in ZB1. This really opens him up to be put into a much more globally focused group than Mnet is willing to debut, something I think will play far much more to his strengths. A lot of the people who didn't make it into the final lineup may actually be stronger for having the exposure to the show and not making it into the final lineup. I think Huey, for example, might have brought in a lot of new fans and interests, but could have easily faded into the background for people as a leader or the oldest in ZB1. Whereas if he goes the solo route, all the people who believe he's super talented from watching him here will probably appreciate him more by himself. There are 3 Korean trainees that did make the final lineup that I think are really going to shine and benefit from their inclusion in ZB1. Gunwook, Hanbin, and Jiwoong, in my opinion, are going to shine much more in this group and build buzz I think will last them a lot longer than both the show and ZB1. Hanbin performed amazingly on the show, being a consistent favorite. He really showed his strength well, and I would not be surprised if he debuts solo after the show and is a runaway success in Korea. I foresee him having the same kind of success that Kang Daniel did from 101. Gunwook, meanwhile, in my opinion, will easily be able to translate this success into a huge boon for Jellyfish, and hopefully they base a group around him that really suits his strengths after ZB1, similar to how Cube capitalizes on Soyeon's success on Produce 101. Meanwhile, I think Jiwoong was put into a box as an actor and not viewed much as an idol. His success here, in my opinion, should really open up new venues to him. I'm super happy for him in that regard. Overall, 6 of my top 9 made it into the show, so I shouldn't be too disappointed. I should be really excited about that, but my 2 favorites, Huey and Haruto, didn't make it to the show. I'm left curious about this group, but I don't really see them becoming my favorite boy group ever. I'm not really excited to collect albums or make too much more content around them anything, but I certainly feel better about ZB1 than I felt about Kepler. Maybe not having Urena make it into Kepler made it too crushing for me since it was so surprising, but maybe, on the other hand, I'll have the same feelings about Haruto not making it into ZB1. I hope all those who didn't make it into the final lineup are proud of their performance, and know that many came to appreciate their strengths and talents even if they didn't make it into the final group. I think the music is going to be the deciding factor in whether this group is successful or not. I'll definitely be cheering for them to have a strong debut. I hope to see more fun songs come from them like Jelly Pop.